Hey everybody, welcome to Fantasy R&R. This is your host Ryan.
And I'm Rob.
And welcome back to another season of fantasy football.
Woo!
This is Fantasy with Rob and Ryan, Fantasy R&R.
Alright, today we are back talking about fantasy football. Me and Rob are going to talk about some fantasy players and our teams and bullshit about things that nobody wants to hear. Alright, so Rob, with that, we want to start with eye openers, right? Like who popped our eyes open this weekend in fantasy football?
Yeah, one guy that comes to mind, guy I own in both of my leagues this year, only doing two. Decided to relax a little bit this year. Kyla Murray, quarterback from Arizona, looks
love it.
freaking good. Yes, I'm very high on him. It's almost very Michael Vick-ish, minus the beating of the dogs. Kyler Murray has the legs to not only succeed, but clearly has the accuracy and the arm.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, 289 yards passing, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception, but 20 touchdowns and rushing touchdowns.
And it's so interesting too because we looking back, you had that decision when you drafted this guy, Dwayne Haskins or Kyler Murray, right? And we heard a lot of people comparing Murray to Russell Wilson, and he's got that dual ability of being a great baseball player and a great football player. So obviously, he's got two things going for him. He's got great reaction time and great work ethic. And we see that pretty much evident on the field all of last year and beginning this year. You think he's going to be the MVP this season?
That's what it's my bold statement. All it took was that one game, and I was watching him. I was like, this is, I believe, year 3, and he looks just so comfortable in the pocket. Arizona is just littered with talent, and the defense especially. That was was going to be another eye-opener for me. Cardinals defense, man, they look good this year. They terrorized, and I think one guy just off the top of my mind, blanking on his name, 5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles. I mean, it might be a sneaky little defense the way the Dolphins Miami was last year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a good defense to keep your eye on. I think you're absolutely right here. I mean, another one of the eye openers for me was, it's low-hanging fruit at this point for us to talk about Tampa and whether or not they were going to be great. I mean, we just assume they're going to be great this year again, but their passing attack has not slowed down one bit. We saw Godwin, Antonio Brown, and Gronk all go off. I mean, there simply wasn't even enough targets to go around for Mike Evans to get much of anything going. Right. Ronald Jones fumbles early in the game. He sits down. Leonard Fournette takes over. I mean, do you think we're going to see just a resurgence of last year's offense where we can rely on everybody on the Tampa Bay's offense to put up fantasy points this year?
Yeah, if you have any of those names, including, of course, Tom Brady, you're playing them. You're never sitting any of these guys. I know I was even talking to somebody who was mocking me for drafting Chris Godwin, saying that he was a complete bust last year, and he just goes off week 1, and I just kind of laughed. I was like,
20 points, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So you're not sitting any of those guys. So, of course, yeah, definitely. Anybody else catch your eye? A little eye opener for you, Ryan?
Yeah, I got a couple of guys I'd like to talk about. Cory Davis, just being linked up with the New York Jets now on a team with rookie Zach Wilson, who's looking fantastic. I mean, he threw a couple of picks, and he's going to have to work his way through the game, but he's definitely got more of a connection with these receivers than Darnold had with during his time with the Jets. Cory Davis, of course, coming over from the Titans. I thought he would be somebody to watch this year to finally break out in his 5th year. Very hyped rookie back in 2017. I think he was the 5th or 6th overall pick. So keep your eye on that guy. Also, some of the other notables, we saw Deebo Samuel finally come to fruition. Brandon Cooks with a couple of very, very long balls, albeit against the Jags defense. And Jameis Winston putting up 37 fantasy points. Not throwing for more than 150 yards, but 5 total touchdowns. What are some of the other players that have opened your eyes this weekend that you'd like to talk about?
Just off the top of my head alone, it looks like Christian McCaffrey's okay. That's definitely a start.
This is true.
We had talked about last year how I traded for him, and essentially it was just like fighting for next year. He looked very good. I don't think anybody was, well, I mean, maybe there are people who were doubting him, but I think he's going to be fine moving forward. You never go wrong with my man Travis Kelce again this year. I drafted him first round and had certain people laugh in my face, but I'm never going to argue with
laughs in somebody's face
25-point friggin' scores
over
each week.
Travis Kelce.
I don't know. That beats
Absolutely
me.
ridiculous.
Beats me. But yeah, I mean, outside of that, those were a few ones. Laviska Shenault is going to be a guy I keep preaching about. I'm sure people are going to jump off the bandwagon even after this week. And DJ Chark, just two guys, and Marvin Jones Jr. We were just talking about this. I think people need to breathe just a little bit. But these guys are going to accumulate points, and I think
with Trevor Lawrence at the helm, I think you're absolutely right.
Yep. Yeah, and even Trevor Lawrence for the 3 picks, he looked great. And I'm not just saying that, being a Jags fan here living in Jacksonville, I think he looked really good for his first start. And, I mean, everything else being thrown out the window, once they sit there and you but you trade away Minshew and everything, a lot of stuff has to be going through his head his first start. I still think he did pretty good. I really do. He looked like a rookie out there, but I think the potential is going to be huge going forward, especially once Jacksonville decides to start accumulating that on the offensive line. Come on, Jacksonville. This is a little ridiculous. Anybody else catch your eye, little eye-opener there, Ryan?
I mean, a lot of people caught my eye. Some of the eye closers, those are the ones that actually ironically caught my eye. I guess we just throw all of Green Bay on the fucking table right now, don't we?
Yeah, I think so, man. They look terrible.
I mean, we talked about this on the phone a few times. I really do think that Aaron Jones is going to regress this year. And what I mean by that is just like Alvin Kamara regressed a while ago. It's not like he's done. He's not finished. He's not sitting around like a loser doing this podcast no one listens to, drinking a beer like I am. I mean, the dude is going to probably come back next year and be just fine. I just think it's going to be one of those years where you have Aaron Jones and you have high expectations for him, but you're probably going to see maybe 5 to 6 games tops where he breaks 10 to 20 points. And the rest of the time is, I think you're going to have a lot of these dink and dunk kind of passes where maybe you're getting 6 points out of the passing game, but maybe he's having trouble breaking 40 yards of rushing and doesn't get a score. Green Bay looked absolutely terrible. I don't know what your take on this is. I mean, like, there are people I expected to be bad this year. I did not expect to see the Packers start off like that. I mean, we thought probably at the very least Rodgers was going to have a touchdown to Devontae Adams. No, instead he throws 2 picks.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And, I'm not... all of this drama that was going on during the offseason, and then for the Packers to come out and put up 3 points week 1, I just think it's all downhill from here. I think the Packers are going to be a complete joke. I think the fact they front office might even have to entertain the idea of trading Rodgers if he's going to keep opening his mouth and then not showing up week 1. I mean, to a Saints defense that's pretty good, not great. He was horrible. Like, was there a worse quarterback? I think even Ryan Fitzpatrick, who went out in the first or second quarter, had more points than Rodgers this week. What the hell?
That's very possible.
It's comical.
I didn't even look at that.
Yeah, it's comical. But real quick, before I go into any eye closers, one dude I forgot, Jalen Reagor, wide receiver for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, we'll be talking more about the Eagles.
Yeah, I'm high on the Eagles, man. I really am. I think that was an eye-opener, just a team in general. The Cardinals and the Eagles impressed me the most this year. And I really like what I see from Hurts, and I like Reagor eventually settling in as the number 1 target for the receivers, as well as Dallas Goedert. I think that's almost a matter of time until he takes over.
I mean, I kind of feel like he already has, and I've been thinking that for a few years now, I agree with you on this one. In fact, you know what? Why don't we just go on to kind of a next segment here? We've already talked about some eye openers and closers. Other people are going to be obvious. We're just spitballing some fantasy here, but we're talking about our fantasy MVP for week 1. Now, this is not necessarily who we had that scored the most points, but just the guy for us that you feel like, okay, that's it, that's my dude this year. If I fail at every other position, I am confident this guy's going to put up consistent points all year. I'm going to have to go with Jalen Hurts of the Eagles, and we talked about this guy a while back, and back when Carson Wentz. Burping out some highlight. Back when Carson Wentz was getting replaced, we have a video here, breakout NFL star 2021 Jalen Hurts 4 months ago. As usual, no one watched this piece of garbage video that I made. Jalen Hurts was my breakout star, and obviously I've got some rookie cards and autographs of his jumping on the bandwagon early. We're looking at a dude who might be the next coming of Lamar Jackson. 264 yards passing, 62 yards rushing, 3 passing TDs, no interceptions, no fumbles. Took Atlanta to the house with a 32-6 victory. I mean, is this it? Are we depending on the Eagles' offense now? I mean, you and me both like Goddard. I've got Rieger stashed on my ESPN keeper team. Another guy I bought an autograph from. I really like these young players on this offense. I mean, you sound confident that they're gonna take that division.
I do. We talked about this last year. I know we even had the Carson Wentz-Hurts debate last year as well. And I kept saying, I was like, the tools are there, like Rieger, Sanders, I'm blanking on his name, but the Alabama wide receiver they drafted this year. I mean, there's
Devontae Smith. Yeah, of course.
Smith,
and he caught a touchdown.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, and like this team was just poised to essentially pop. This offense needed to pop, and Wentz wasn't the answer. And Hurts comes in as just I feel like he's just a very smart, accurate quarterback. I mean, I am not going to be surprised. I agree with you that next year we're talking the likes of the top quarterbacks that are going to be drafted. I'm going to go in order: Kyla Murray, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts. I really do. I just have. I'm very confident with them. I know in your team you had the debate between Hurts and Tua, and you went Hurts, and I'm glad you did. Yeah, he looked good. He looks like a refined, polished quarterback. I mean, you talk about a guy in college who played for the likes of Alabama and Oklahoma and went to the championship with both teams. Like
and everybody's talking about
no dud quarterback.
How
does
good
that. No dud quarterback.
Yeah, everyone's talking about how good Mac Jones is going to be. You got to just think. I mean, they're coming from the same thoroughbred here, and I couldn't agree more. I think Hurts is going to be my guy going forward, and I do like your take on the Eagles. I hope this all works out. I mean, basically, that's the one thing I pride myself on is if I can't pick anybody else, I generally always pick the right quarterback for fantasy purposes. Very excited to see what he does going forward. Who's your fantasy MVP for the year, Rob? I want to hear yours.
God, it's hard, man. I mean, I'm bringing up Kyler Murray and Kelsey. Those are two of just my absolute favorite players. I've owned them now for the last few years, but I'll go off the beaten path. I'll even go a little further. I love Chris Godwin. I got him. McCaffrey's a no-brainer. But A.J. Brown, I think, is the one guy that scored a touchdown. A.J. Brown is going to continue to receive the most touchdowns in Tennessee's offense. I have to believe that. And I believe we saw it early on this week. I like A.J. Brown a lot. He led the league last year in yards after tackles, I believe, if that's the phrasing for it. But this guy is just a hoss. I like A.J. Brown as much as I like Shenault, and I think Laviska Shenault is in his shadow where, like, again, I think Shenault was number 2 last year of yards after being touched or whatnot. So I'm going A.J. Brown. I'm going a little off the beaten path there. But I will be the first to say this. I believe Kyler Murray is winning the MVP this year. And week 1, that's all I needed.
You heard it here.
Kyler Murray, MVP.
You heard it here first, folks. Yeah, I mean, we've been right on a number of things, obviously. I mean, everything from Cam Newton re-signing with the Patriots, other dumb takes over the years, and this year and a half we've been doing this or whatever it's been. Yeah. So you can count on us, regardless of the fact that Cam Akers and Gus Edwards broke their legs on our breakout list before we even started the season. Now watch out for Gerald Everett.
On both of our teams.
Yeah, on both of our teams. So goodbye, Gus Edwards, for me. So, and this actually kind of let's go into our next segment here real quick. We'll wrap this one up. Overreactions and irrational panic, because we're going to talk about some pickups and drops real quick. I don't think it's an overreaction to drop Gus Edwards at this point.
No,
and I don't think it's irrational panic. I think if you're in a redraft league or a single league, I mean, he's done for the year at a single league. In a redraft league, you got to deal with J.K. Dobbins coming back from this an injury, the same injury. Gus Edwards coming back from the same injury. We know they got Tyson Williams. Justice Hill was banged up, and he was their running back before all this even started. Mm-hmm. And now we're looking at Devontae Freeman, Latavius Murray, and Le'Veon Bell, 3 guys that used to be top 10 running backs on the Vikings and Falcons and Steelers. Now they're all on the same team, and they're all going to be vying for touches over the course of the year. I say you're done with Gus Edwards. You and me love the guy. He was averaging the same kind of numbers that Derrick Henry was when Derrick Henry was playing with DeMarco Murray and Deion Lewis before they just let him become the bell cow. Yeah, so I mean, it's just one of those things. I don't think it's an overreaction. Well, do you have any takes on this? Like, let's say Saquon Barkley, Najee Harris. What are you thinking here as you look around the league? Are you willing to be patient on some guys? And is there irrational panic that's going to set in week 1? Who are you talking about?
Okay, so I'm going to push this a little further as to saying I'm almost concerned with every single running back drafted in the first 2 rounds.
Yeah,
Why am I saying this? And again, I was laughed off the face of this planet when I took Kelsey in the first round. You passed all those running backs. I wish I would have. We should have done this.
God, I'm with you.
I'm looking at Kelsey outscoring right now in just the first round alone. Saquon Barkley, Elliott. I mean, just those 2 alone just kind of make me laugh. Somebody just laughed me off the face of the planet, and I'm like, I just don't trust running backs anymore, man. I mean, we've seen it. Look at even Miles Sanders getting the limited touches, getting yet another vulture touchdown. It's driving me fucking crazy. With that.
Yeah.
McCaffrey looked like he's looking good, and Saints running back, I'm just freaking
Kamara,
Kamara.
Looks like Chubb is up to his old tricks.
Chubb looks good. I like Chubb,
Swift.
but look at God, I'm sorry. It's first week and I'm all over the place here. The other running back that they had, not Alvin Kamara. Now I want to say his name.
Mark Ingram on. You talking about Mark Ingram on Houston?
Not Ingram. Who's the other guy they got from the Chiefs that beat his girlfriend?
Oh, the Chiefs. Kareem Hunt.
Kareem Hunt, who had a big week too, and might limit Chubb's potential for the rest of the year. All I'm trying to say, long story short, long-winded here, is I don't know if I trust running backs in the first 2 rounds. A lot of people say in fantasy drafts you zig and zag. So if everybody's taking running backs, might as well be the weirdo grabbing the best tight end available in the league.
Yeah.
And then as people accumulate different positions, you're feasting on other positions.
Listen, you're absolutely right. Here's the thing. I actually had a conversation with Stephanie, who's in our league, my girlfriend, about this. Look for example for some of the top running backs that were taken. James Robinson, Aaron Jones, who, we've talked about Aaron Jones. Me personally, he's just going to be on my regress list. But these are top 10 running backs. And to your point, I told Stephanie, I was like, listen, go for those other guys first. We're following that trend. Let's take Kelsey first. We know he's a lock at tight end.
Yeah.
And then after that, you got Waller and Kittle. You can take both of them back to back if you want to and flex one of them all year. Or take the quarterback that's going to put up the most points in the league, like Mahomes, Josh Allen. Leave the rest of the quarterbacks for other people. But we're looking at David Montgomery and Melvin Gordon being very late round picks for the running backs in this year's draft. They're putting up more points than guys like Jonathan Taylor, Najee Harris, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Austin Eckler. Now Dalvin Cook, he's been solid. Joe Mixon is probably the one surprising everybody. I'm not surprised by Joe Mixon's success. I don't understand why everybody else is, but that's the way it goes. And we've seen these trends before, and they're going to ebb and flow. 1 year is going to be the year of the running back, and vice versa. Now, in terms of pickups and drops, week 1, let's get bold here, Rob. What are you thinking to look out for as far as pickups?
For pickups, I think it's going to be interesting because I think a couple guys, just like the Christian Kirks of the world, who had a monster game, of course. It's so hard for me to say. Week 1 is kind of almost makes me laugh a little bit. I like the Cardinals' defense. I think they could be sneaky this year. One guy we're talking about, I just don't even believe anybody knows who he is. Jawon Johnson, the tight end that was converted from a wide receiver to tight end for the Saints. Got a couple touchdowns. He's a big, able-bodied, good hands. And I wouldn't be shocked if he used to outpace whoever's in front of him right now in the tight end depth chart. I think he could be a sneaky grab. Sterling Shepard was a guy I dropped in one of our leagues for our redraft. And, somebody's got to catch the ball for the Giants, I guess. If Danny Dimes is going to actually do some business this year. And Matt Stafford, I think, was one. Matt Stafford was a guy I think a lot of people maybe were reluctant on. To talk about a team like Jalen Hurts. You step into a position with these amazing freaking tools. And, dude, Matt Stafford looked as good as anybody out there.
They're tools, all right.
Yeah, monster tools. But real quick, kind of circle back to what I was talking about now that I have this pulled up for scores. There were two running backs, that outscored Travis Kelce. One including the aforementioned Joe Mixon and Christian McCaffrey. That's it.
Wow.
In the first round alone. I mean, there's nobody on this list. I mean, even the likes.
Yeah.
I mean, DeAndre Swift. Who saw that coming? Even Jamal Williams. Like, who saw this coming for Detroit's backfield? I don't believe. Yeah. And then David Montgomery blowing up and doing what he did this week.
Well, I mean, I've actually talked to people about David Montgomery. I mean, it's just he's actually one of those guys who sneakily gets 12 to 20 points every game, and it happens just slowly over the course of the game. I think he was one of those guys that you saw him late round. I mean, if you were drafting running backs in the 5th, 6th round and you got David Montgomery, you got to steal.
Yeah.
And I would love to have him on my team. I mean, as far as pickups go, I do think, guys, if you're out there, and a lot of people in the leagues weren't high on the Colts offense because of Wentz, I like Jacob Eason, to be quite honest. Maybe he should be actually taking over the helm there and seeing what he can do at an NFL level for a few weeks, because Wentz isn't doing much. But I definitely think that, go out there and get Paris Campbell and Michael Pittman Jr. if they're just sitting around. I think this was just an off week. You're going to see. Sure. Don't drop anybody like that. Like I said, it's cool to drop someone like Gus Edwards, but as far as picking up, look for those Colts wide receivers. I think it's going to get better. Campbell caught his only reception of the day for 24 yards. Now, imagine if he does that 5 times a game with a TD. You got a superstar in the making, and he's coming off an injury, so he's kind of flying under the radar there. Also, I think it would probably be a good idea. For every league I'm in, I've seen Amari Cooper on the bench. You guys, please stop that. Just put him in your starting lineups. What the fuck is he on your team for if you're not starting Amari Cooper?
I agree.
And I mean, I'm not sure about you, but at this point, I think we have to start talking about the idea of the Jaguars wide receivers being rostered in every league, like you were saying earlier with Marvin Jones Jr. And I do think Trevor Lawrence is going to put up some big numbers by the end of the season, and everyone's going to get a piece of the pie. I mean, Chark is, Chenault is, Marvin Jones Jr. is. I mean, if one of these guys is like the lone wolf sitting out on your shallow league waiver wire, you got to get him now.
I think they're excellent flex position players. Like, I feel like all 3 of those guys. James Robinson, I'm a little concerned about because that O-line just looked like trash, and I really do believe that the Jaguars are going to have to come from behind, in a majority of the games this year, because I just don't know if he's going to get the touches.
Last year.
I think they realized, oh my gosh, we actually have a good player on our team, better feed him. But now we have a quarterback who can actually get the ball around. I said it too. I never thought the Jags are just going to upright start winning games left and right. This is a team that is going to have to get comfortable.
You mentioned that.
And they're going to have to mesh. And once they mesh, look out. Because I think Josh Allen on defense, Miles Jack, the guy they got from LSU a couple years, I think they're going to flourish. Corners could use a little help and safety. I mean, the team's still a work in progress. But the offense is what we're looking at for fantasy purposes. And I agree. Course. Marvin Jones Jr., DJ Chark, and Laviska Shenault need to be rostered. They're great flex plays going forward.
All right, and with that, let's just close up. I'm just going to do some quick mentionables. Guys, rookies that have already scored a TD this year in week 1. We've got Justin Fields. We've got Trey Lance. We've got Jamar Chase. We've got Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle. All of these guys are scoring TDs in week 1. If you drafted them in your keeper leagues, congratulations, you're already getting points. We will continue to see that trend, I am sure. Once again, with Fantasy R&R, this was Rob and Ryan. We will see you next time.